the Republican nomination is decided by delegates. It's over 1,200 delegates you need to have. We're nowhere even near that number of people that have yet even been filed, much less being able to win them. And in that sense, the votes that are happening between now and the 15th, before the 15th, all these states are awarding delegates proportionally. It's not based on how many states you win. It's based on how many delegates you picked up.
All right, and it's a good point on the part of Marco Rubio. He later went on to say, look, you could win a big state, delegates there, and all of a sudden it's even Stevens again. He's right on that, but he has yet to win a big state himself, still early in the process. So this idea that you win delegates along the way in this proportional voting, how long does that hold water? Presidential historian Doug Weed on that. Doug, what do you think of that? Eventually, whether you're Cruz or you're Rubio, you can't just be picking up delegates. You got to be running ahead of the guy who's picking up more delegates than you, right?
Yeah, that's right. There was a moment like this in history in 1824 when the establishment didn't like who the people were going to pick as president, and it ended up going into the House of Representatives, and it was called the corrupt bargain. It wasn't a popular time. So I'll put it this way, Rubio's correct. It's not the number of states you win, it's the number of delegates you get. But if that means, as some suggest, that Rubio could cobble together a delegate solution and win the nomination, even though Trump wins a bunch of states going into it, that nomination wouldn't be worth having because the American people or the Republicans would be very upset.
You know, as you know, there's a full court press on right now, Doug, to stop Donald Trump from getting that nomination. So the pressure on these other candidates to start picking up some states, to your point. But Donald Trump, even with proportional voting, oftentimes can pick up all the delegates in a given state. South Carolina comes to mind, maybe when all is said and done, Nevada, and it's 30 delegates, because of the way those are apportioned and the way if you win a congressional district, you also pick up the delegates in that district. So could proportional voting actually disproportionately help Donald Trump in those circumstances?
You're absolutely right, Neil. And remember, this was all designed by the establishment, the GOP establishment, to help Mitt Romney get the nomination and not have some insurgency take it away from him. We've never had a moment quite like this. The nearest we come to is 1828, when the voters rose up against the establishment. We'd had 6 presidents. 2 of them had come from the same family, John Adams and John Quincy Adams. 4 of them had been Secretary of State. They all were Episcopalian. They all lived on the East Coast. And the American people elected Andrew Jackson, an outsider, millionaire by today's standards. The establishment said he'll ruin the economy. He has a temper. He actually killed a man in a duel. He uses bad language. You're going to ruin things. We need this new national bank. But Andrew Jackson won. He was a great president, and he retaliated against the party by appointing a lot of businessmen to office instead of party regulars.
Now, of course, it would have been a controversial election he had lost before when he won the popular vote against John Quincy Adams, and of course avenged that in what was an electoral vote snafu then. I'm wondering now with Donald Trump whether you think he could carry that beyond just the nomination. In other words, that pitted against Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders, he could pick up states and big states with electoral votes, because the rap against him is that he's like a phenomenon, a populist sort of comet that'll fade. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. You know, I had supported Rand Paul for president, and he was beating Hillary Clinton in national polls, but he couldn't get anywhere for the nomination. So first you got to get the nomination. And it's almost like an actor. You say, well, he's good at comedies. He would make a poor villain. He's not a good. Well, sometimes if they're good at what they do, they're good at the other part as well. And Trump's been very good at keeping the focus on him and attacking his opponents, winning the nomination. Who knows when he gets into a general election if he'll switch tactics and be good at that too. We can't say what will happen. And there's one other factor, and that was Romney. A lot of evangelicals sat out in the general election against Romney. At least that's right. What some of the numbers show. We wonder if they'll come back for Donald Trump. So it might be different than it played out 4 years ago.
Well, those certainly when the Mormon vote came out for Romney when it counted in Nevada, even though
absolutely
very few participated, and that same vote came out on behalf of Marco Rubio this time, maybe helped him get the second place showing he had. Too early to tell, I guess. But Doug,
Too early to tell.
thank you very much, my friend. Doug Weed.
Thank you. Good to see you again.